evening, and I welcome you to your transformative program, Politics and Beyond. I am always excited to come your way, particularly when it is around this time, because we create an environment for us to discuss Ghana in the future, and most especially as we prepare towards the 2024 general elections. I think we are just about 30 or so days, 29 days to the election. So it means every minute, every moment, every hour counts so much. This evening's conversation is going to be very, very interactive. And so at the appropriate time, we'll be activating the phone lines for you to call in, for you to also share your views. This evening, we are just looking at the people's voice, your voice. It matters so much. And so as we prepare into the 2024 general elections, we want to hear from you, your opinion, your position on the conversation that we are going to have tonight. As always, get interactive with us even before the phone lines are activated through our WhatsApp line, which is exhibited on the screen. And on all our social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, send in your comments and it will be read for you at the appropriate and at the right time. I am still your host, Emmanuel, Jr., the Chief Crusader Against Corruption in Ghana here. Last 2 weeks, and of course, before repercussions. In other words, say to aba ewonsunsanso. What it simply means is that whatever decision you take today, don't look at it as the few minutes you go to the ballot to go and thumbprint. But look at it as the decision you are making has a significant effect on your life for the next 4-8 years. It has a significant effect on the life of your children and even your unborn generation. So don't see it as fun. Not at all. Governance is a serious business, and we must look at it as such. You remember last week I made mention of one effect of what happened in 2020, decisions that were taken during the election, which caused the death of a very prominent person in our society. And I'm making reference to Mr. Michael Ejekum Ado, or Dr. Michael Ejekum Ado, the CEO of Kama Group of, or the chairman of the Kama Group of companies. He died. And what was his crime? He confessed before dying that, look, the only crime he committed was the fact that he decided to save towards his future. Now that he's saved and it was time for him to take his own money, the government of the day decided that there's something called haircuts, and he was frustrated. He couldn't even access his own money, and that led to his death. That's not the only thing. That is the death, and we want to console with the family. But you and I are alive. Right from 2016 to date, I'm going to show you some of the effects that the decisions that were taken in 2016, 2020, as we speak now, the effect of those decisions. And on the screen, you'll be seeing the prices that have, the changes in prices, right from 2016 all the way to now. In 2016, and if we can show those prices on the screen, in 2016, you could see that there were some commodities that were being bought at a certain price. For instance, a tin of milk in the year 2016 was going for 1 cedi 80 pesos. Today, as we speak, if you don't have 8 cedis, you can't buy a tin of milk. It is just as a result of the election and the decisions that were taken. And not just the milk. You can see another item that is going to be seen on the screen. Can we change it? So we are also talking about the dollar rates. The cedi dollar, today as we speak, in the year 2016, the dollar was 4 cedis, 20 pesos to $1 today as we speak. In fact, the 16.7 this morning when I checked, it was about 17. So you have 17 cedis before you'll be able to get $1. That is the effect of the decision that was taken in the year 2016. The effect of the decision that was taken in the year 2020. As we speak, the dollar rate has moved from 4 cedis 20 pesos all the way to 16 cedis 70 pesos. In some quarters, it is even 17 cedis, just because of the decision that we went to take. Then you move on to Gari, a commodity that is very common, and in every home, it is one of the food that we all rely on. In the year 2016, an olonka of Gari was going for 6 cedis 50 pesos. Today, olonka of Gari is going for 35 cedis. This is the effect of the decision that was taken in the year 2016, the decision that was taken in the year 2020. The effect of going to the polls to make a decision as to who should lead and who should govern us. This is it, the difference. 2016, one Olonka of Gari was going for 6 cedis, 50 pesos. Today, as we speak, it is not 10 cedis, it's not 20 cedis, it's not 25, it's not 30, 35 cedis. That is how much we are selling an Olonka of Gari for. We go to the next one, and we are looking at fuel, and all of us are crying because when there is an effect or something affecting fuel, it affects everything. Prices changes, everything changes. In the year 2016, a liter was going for 16 cedis, 10 pesos. That was in 2016. As a result of the decision that we went to make at the polls, the general elections, in the year 2016, in the year 2020, today we are buying it at a gallon at 68 Ghana cedis instead of 16 cedis, 10 pesos. We are now buying it at 68 cedis. Then, yes, that's it, 68 cedis. The other one, and we are still talking about the effect, the other one has to do with gasem or cement. I mean, we often call it gasem, but that is just the brand. Cement, I mean. In the year 2016, if you were holding 16 cedis, 50 pesos, you could buy one bag of cement for 16 cedis, 50 pesos. So in other words, let's even assume in 2016 it was 20 cedis, which it wasn't. It was 16 cedis. But let's assume it was 20 cedis. What it meant was that if you were holding 100 cedis in the year 2016, you could buy 5 bags of cement. Today, as we speak, if you are holding 100 cedis, you can't even buy 1 bag of cement. A bag of cement, you need a minimum of, or an average of 115 Ghana cedis to be able to do that. And so this is also the effect of it. So when we talk of how elections affect you and I, it is not a child's play. When we talk of how elections affect you and I, or the next generation, it is not a child's play. T-row, if you have forgotten, one row was going for 50 pesos. 30 pesos actually, in the year 2016. Today, as we speak, if you are not holding 3 cedis, 50 pesos, you can't buy 1 row. 1 row. I mean, this is the effect of it. In Sunsansua, Okoto Aba, Inya Ewo Sono, and no near can me. So one share one kwa. You'll be holding money, and at the end of the day, the money becomes useless. It loses its value, and you'll not even be able to use the money for anything beneficial. And that is the effect of it. That is what happens when you end up making a decision that you don't really consider. That is really the effect of it. And that is why I keep saying that when you want to go into the ballot to make a decision, don't look at it as though it is just for that moment. It has nothing to do with my party has won or my party has lost. Today, another common commodity that all of us were having has to do with a ball of kinky. If you have forgotten, I'm reminding all of us that in the year 2016, we were buying a ball of kinky for 50 pesos. Not even 1 cedi, 50 pesos. Today, as we speak, if you are not holding 5 cedis, and sometimes you go to buy 5 cedis ball of kinky somewhere, wonder if that 5, how many of those balls will satisfy you. Ye can't elections are a so. Look at rice, a bag of rice, 5 kg rice. In the year 2016, it was 18 cedis. Today, 145 Ghana cedis. The difference no, very simple. The difference is just between or with those individuals that we elected. It is a 2016. Say you top 5 kg rice for 18 cedis. Now in 2024, you turn 145 Question here, what has changed? And what has changed is very simple. The kind of decision you could make here in the year 2016, 2020, no, and no in Sunsanso and Ayenya. And that is why I keep telling you, say a ban governance are a serious business. A ban elections are a serious business. And you must make sure say decision be a ubeteki. As far as this election is concerned, don't play with it. Don't play with it at all. Don't play with it. Making sure say decision making, you take it seriously. This evening, at the appropriate time, we are going to activate the phone lines. You activate the phone lines now. We will invite you to make your comments and contribution. But in the meantime, we are going for a commercial break, a very quick break. Yababaka, I will introduce the topic that we have for this evening. I will introduce I will introduce the guests. I was struggling to say a guest because you're more or less a co-host now. But I'll introduce the guest that we have this evening, and then we'll go into the conversation. Just stay tuned.
Welcome to AutoCheck Vehicle Diagnostic and Licensing Center.
I hear my car can be checked here without going to Accra.
Sure. Emission, check.
Alignment, check.
Brakes, check. Visit AutoChecks at Koforodia Aquadum Road for the roadworthiness of your vehicle, from saloon cars to heavy-duty industrial vehicles. Madam, your car is now ready for the road.
Thank you so much. AutoChecks, check.
AutoChecks, your safety, our priority.
Check, AutoChecks.
The average human body mass should have at least 60% water for optimal performance in any physical or mental exercise. We can help you maintain it naturally. Natural mineral water. Simply natural. For bulk purchase, call 0596 273 546 or 0596 273 547. This advert is FDA approved.
Thank you for still keeping in touch and then being my guest. This evening, we are privileged to have with us an individual who is not a stranger at all to this platform. No, he's, as I indicated, he's more or less a co-host. I mean, he's with us. And I'm making reference to your own, my own, Dr. Daniel Appiah. Doc, welcome to Politics and Beyond. It's a pleasure really having you always. Yeah. Thank you so much for leaving your busy schedule to be on this platform.
Not just busy schedule, but leaving my fufu.
Yes, and I know the reason why. You know the reason why Doc opted or decided to join us this evening is just because of the topic we are having this evening. This evening, we are going to look at the Afrobarometer survey that came, and it is worrying because it has some information in it, and this is a document that I personally do not take lightly, because the content in it has always been proven that they are almost always, factual. And so I don't play with it and I don't joke with it. So today we are looking at the Afrobarometer report. But in the Afrobarometer report, we are also going to concentrate on what the people will say. And what the people will say simply talks about you. And that's why we'll be activating the phone lines at the appropriate time. Now, if you go through the report, there are some things that preliminary I want you to have at the back of your mind. The first one talks about, one thing that has to do with democracy. And alarmingly, between the last report that came and this one, it tells you that 82% of Ghanaians or citizens said at the last instance that they prefer democracy. This very one that came says that 76% Ghanaians are saying they prefer democracy. You know what it means? It means that the number of individuals who will prefer democracy at any given point in time is reducing. We have lost 6% of citizens. 6% of citizens are saying they are no more interested in the democracy we are practicing. And it is alarming. The second one is that the last Afrobarometer report presented to us that 86% of Ghanaians rejected military rule. 86% rejected military rule. But as we speak, the number of individuals who are rejecting military rule in Ghana have reduced from 86% to 68%. Significantly, 18% of the populace are saying that for them, they are no longer rejecting military rule. In other words, they buttress the point that the democracy we are practicing, they are not seeing the results. And so they are no more interested. I mean, for them, unlike before where they were rejecting military rule, if it comes, that is fine. The other thing that is worrying is that previously, we had 74% of our citizens, Ghanaians, saying that they were satisfied with the democracy that we are practicing. 74%. Today, as we speak, that percentage has reduced from 74% way down to 51%. In other words, 23% reduction. From 74% saying that they were satisfied, now 51% says that they are not, they are satisfied. So in other words, it tells you that majority of Ghanaians, or most Ghanaians, or the brackets that constitute those who were not satisfied with the democracy we are practicing, has increased. The other one, which for me is very worrying, is the significant increase in the number of citizens or Ghanaians who are saying that they wouldn't mind the military intervening in political activities in Ghana. 40% of Ghanaian citizens are saying that. It is alarming. And so if we have the democracy we are practicing, you think that is just a child's play, we should be very careful with that. These are just the preliminary statistics that I want you to have in mind. Now, there are three areas I want us to look at, and that is where, say, you activate phone lines. Now, you have opportunity to call in. You can make your comments, and then you can also make your suggestions. It's a question, and so you can also ask. The first one has to do with institutions, state institutions. The second one has to do with corruption. And the third one we will look at has to do with the influence. In other words, Nema influence the decision-making of citizens as we get towards this general elections, 7th December election. Nema influence them. The first one is that Yaba institutions now, the report gave some interesting statistics here, and I want us to look at it. One of the institutions, it came out that people are not having trust in. Of course, let's look at the positive one. So 41% of Ghanaians have trust, a lot of trust in the Ghana Armed Forces. 25% have trust in the religious leaders or organizations. The same 25% have got trust in the NGOs and the civil society organizations. 22% Ministry of Health. Your traditional leaders in Abafom, you see 20% of Ghanaians have trust in them. And rightly so. Maybe It's because over the past years, the role and the impact the traditional leaders were having or making in society, it looks like we are not feeling the impact. But there are alarming parts. Institutions that citizens don't trust. The first one, the presidency. The second one, the judiciary, the courts. The third one is the Electoral Commission. The fourth one is the police. The fifth one is opposition parties. So the opposition parties. The sixth one, the ruling party. The seventh one, the judiciary. Legislature. Members of parliament. And then it goes on. Municipal, district chief executives, assemblymen, and women. But what is alarming is the fact that you practice executive powers, and that the constitution is clothed with executive powers. Now, the three arms of government, the one on top is the presidency. And that is where citizens don't have trust in. The second one, is the last resort we will all run to, has to do with the judiciary. And yet, the fact shows, yes, citizens don't have trust in it. And then it moves on and moves on and moves on. And then comes members of parliament. Doc, in terms of trust in the institutions, why is it that we are seeing this distrust among citizens in these key institutions? The presidency, the courts, Electoral Commission, police, and it goes that way.
All right. Good evening to our listeners. It's a privilege always for me to come here for this kind of discussion. Yes, Ghana has opted to practice democracy at the end of the day, but competitive democracy, whereby you are frequently changing the government through elections, does not in its own way lead to a strengthening of the institutions at the end of the day. As I keep reminding many people, if you look at the advanced countries, they created strong institutions first before they adopted competitive democracy or multi-party democracy in a very strong manner.
Yeah, that's true.
So we don't have any advanced country that has got the experience that Ghana and many African countries are going through, where you first adopt multi-party democracy and then you are trying to create strong institutions. In the advanced countries, the country that tried to follow that path was the United States, and it didn't have it easy at all. And so if you are a poor country and you don't have enough resources to build strong institutions, and you are frequently going into elections like Ghana every 4 years and then changing the leadership, what it does is that it rather tends to undermine your ability to create strong institutions.
Very true.
And this is something that has been proven time and again across many countries. And so at the end of the day, it means that you should be able to focus on creating some strong mechanisms of accountability, which we lack. So in the absence of strong mechanisms of accountability that are independent of executive control, what you are going to see is a decline in trust in institutions and a decline in the quality of the institutions. And so unless we are able to create some strong independent institutions to hold the political elites accountable, we are going to continue going down and down and down to the point where we will not be able to sustain the democracy. So the lack of independent institutions and then the frequent changes in government at the end of the day in the poor country fuels this kind of weaknesses in our institutions. So those are really the key drivers of the weak institutions that we continue to have.
So if I get it right, what we are talking about, the reason why we have it this way is probably the way and manner in which we even go through our 4 years, 8 year cycle of elections. And also the fact that we have failed, or we did fail, to first build the accountable institutions, strengthening the institutions before we going into the kind of democracy or the electoral process that we've decided to engage ourselves in. Right. That's fine. Now, the other thing that I want us to look at, and that has to do with the issue of corruption.
Right.
If you look at the findings again, it says Among key public officials, the police, the presidency, tax officials, MPs and judges, and magistrates are most widely perceived as corrupt. This is the worrying part. 34, that is 74% of Ghanaians say the level of corruption in the country increased somewhat or a lot over the past year. And that is really true. That's the perception. So last year till now, the perception is that 74% of Ghanaian citizens believe that corruption has increased. Now, this one says only about a quarter, that's 26% of Ghanaians, believe that people can report corruption without fear of retaliation or decline of 4 percentage points compared to 2022. So obviously, it is getting worse.
Yeah.
Two issues. The first one is the number of citizens who believe that between last year and this year, corruption has increased significantly, 74%. The other one, 24 or 26%, about a quarter of Ghanaians are saying that they believe that, you know, if they are reporting acts of corruption, they are scared to do that because they know that they that are rather supposed to be seen as the whistleblowers, they rather be seen as the people that will be attacked. And as I've always said, as an anti-corruption crusader, the number of threats we keep receiving almost every now and then, as though those of us trying to help fight corruption in the system, you know, we are rather the enemies of the system. And it is just because, you see, corruption is a cartel. Those engaging in it is a cartel. So if you decide to go into it, just like it is always said, if you decide to fight corruption, corruption will fight you. The police, 63% of Ghanaians believe that police are corrupt. Again, the worst part, 54%. So the police comes first. The second is still the office of the president, led by the current president and the vice. It is perceived, 54% of Ghanaians are saying that that office is the second most corrupt office. And you see, when these things are being said, you think that it's a child's play. Before I come to Doc, I'll let my producer project some of the things that has happened over this past period, the scandals that has happened over this past period. And that really suggests clearly, because if you analyze these things, you realize that after the audit has been done, investigations have been done, almost always you find its roots at the presidency. First one is the PDS fraudulent deal. And we know the names that were mentioned, individuals who were directly surrounding the president. And it's even included the office of the vice president. That's the PDS fraudulent deal. $10 million wasted on Cocoa Road audit. $4.5 million AFCON profligate expenditure. Ministry of Finance paying $1 million to Crow and Associates for no work done. And if you remember, or if you've forgotten, it was actually this particular scandal, that was being pursued by the then Auditor General. But because the investigation was revealing individuals around the presidency or at the presidency, they decided to frustrate him and take him off his office or his position. And it involved individuals like Osafo Mafo and some others. Then we have the $17,000 per hour private jet that was hired by the president to tour the world. Appointment of managing director and giving monthly salary to him for non-existing Kita seaports. Ministry of Health anti-snake serum, which was procured, illegally, or there were so many breaches surrounding it. We have the $12 million worth of fertilizer for planting for food and jobs that go missing. Government busted in $12 million Oslo consulate deal. $12.5 million sole source contract for blood distribution drones. And you know where these drones were linked also to. They were all linked to the presidency, either right at the office of the president himself or to the office of the vice president, Alhaji Bawumia. Then we have the 297,585,000 Ghana cedis missing at the Konkatamantu Municipal Assembly, part of the executive. Then we have the $14 million blown by Ministry of Tourism over capacity building. We have the 2-bedroom residence renovation or renovated at 1 million Ghana cedi by JMA, that's the Ghana Maritime Authority boss, and it goes on and it goes on and it goes on as it is being rolled up. And you realize that all this, if not all, about 90% of it finds its roots at the presidency. It finds its roots, if not with the president involved, if not with people close to the president involved, you will always find it at the doorsteps of the vice president. And it is all surrounded. So these things communicate clearly that corruption has obviously increased.
Yeah.
Now, aside the fact that it has increased, you can see most of it happening at the presidency. But Doc, the presidency is actually a place where, it is supposed to manage the institutions. Some years back, we were hearing the police as an institution.
Yeah.
Sometimes we will hear the judiciary, sometimes. Sometimes you hear the legislature, that is the MPs. Hardly were we hearing the presidency. But for a report to come out and it says that the second highest most corrupt, or the second highest corrupt institution we have in this country is the presidency. How worrying is it?
Emmanuel, this is very, very worrying. Once again, I want us to even put it in the context of what existed in the past, let's say 10 years ago, as the Afrobarometer report painted.
Right.
That's on page 17
right.
and all that. 10 years ago, during the tenure of Atta Mills.
That's right.
Now, the office of the president was perceived by 31% of those surveyed by Afrobarometer to be corrupt.
Right.
Now, 2024, just this August, the same office of the president, now 54% of the people surveyed now perceive the office to be very corrupt. And you have mentioned many of the scandals. The question that we ask at the end of the day is, if there is a report of corruption at the presidency, which independent agency is strong enough, is bold enough, has got that kind of objectivity, the independence, and then the autonomy to take on those at the presidency?
Right.
And then we have none at the end of the day. If it is reported to the police, it is reported to YOCO, or if it is reported to BNI or whichever institution that at the end of the day has been created to investigate corruption, where does it end up? It ends up on the desk of the Attorney General.
That's right.
And then it is the decision of the Attorney General, who has been appointed by the President, to either prosecute or not prosecute. So long as we don't have independent agencies that will take on the presidency, there is no way that we will be able to fight this corruption. That is why I keep telling people that you've got to look at the manifestos of these two political parties and then ask yourself, which of them really says that he or she is committed to creating more independent institutions to fight corruption at the end of the day. The same way, if you look at the 2012 performance in terms of the commitment of the presidents to really fight corruption, during 2012, at Amos's time, the same Afrobarometer asked people, is the performance of the president in fighting corruption going well or going badly?
Right.
At that time, 56% of the respondents said, well, it's not going well at all. We are not happy. But then 2024, August, the same citizens, Ghanaians, now it has jumped from 56% now to 82%.
That's alarming.
Saying that the presidency is not committed to the fight against corruption. The same time, when the respondents were asked at the end of the day, how do you think that government is really performing in the fight against corruption? Not is it going well or not. 2012, 44% said, well, it's going fairly well or very well. August 2024, only 16% are saying it is going well or not well at all. So it tells you that when it comes to corruption, I think that under the Fourth Republic, once again, if we are to stick to the data, the Afrobarometer data, this is the worst government that, in terms of fighting corruption, that we have seen.
That's right.
From the Afrobarometer report, from round 1, round 2, round 3, up to now round 10. There is something in this presidency that makes its efforts in fighting corruption not really going well at all. And at the end of the day, if you look at all the scandals that you've listed, you've got to ask yourself, is there any single individual who has been jailed? Right. Is there any single individual who has been taken to either the High Court or the Supreme Court really to even be tried? The OSP tried that, but at some point it looks as if even the OSP has even given up, because once again, once the OSP does the investigation, it will still end up on the desk of persons who have been appointed by the same presidency. And so at the end of the day, certainly we have to also look beyond not just the fact that it is getting worse, and it has gotten much, much worse under this government, but between the two presidential candidates, between the two political parties. I say the two because, of course, all surveys point to the fact that it is one of these, either the NPP or NDC, that is going to win. Which of them really has got the policies in the manifesto to tackle the problem?
That's right.
And that is where, at the end of the day, we really need to be very, very serious in dealing with it.
I agree.
Of course, maybe we will come to that. But when you pick the two manifestos, you see that one of them has got a whole section on governance.
Exactly.
The fact to really create more independent institutions to fight it. Because as we've seen, it's not just a matter of J. Kufuor or JM Mills or Nanado coming in, because they are going to govern with a whole host of political appointees. Unless you have independent institutions, credible judiciary, a credible anti-corruption system that will go against these guys, there is no way that you'll be able to bring it down.
Doc, talking about that, I have said so many times that when you talk of corruption, I as an anti-corruption crusader, I came to the conclusion about 2 years ago that the fight against corruption, we've lost it under this government. Because it is clear that the government is not committed to the fight against corruption. And statistically, everything suggests clearly that the worst president we've had in terms of fighting corruption in this Fourth Republic is this current government. Because, you see, nepotism, as I keep saying, is a key example of corruption. The president decided to start his journey in the year 2017 on the ground of nepotism. Not just the president, the vice president also. So you could see the vice president's in-laws being appointed to certain positions, his brothers being appointed and giving some contracts, clearly suggesting and bringing about conflict of interest and all that. And what is worse is that it is really under this government that anti-corruption crusaders have been or have felt so threatened, so threatened, to the extent that we have records where individuals have even lost their lives. A typical example is that journalist Ahmed Swale, may his soul rest in perfect peace, lost his life as a result of he helping expose the corrupt practices in this country. But very soon, before the elections comes to, comes on, you made mention of the policies, particularly of the two political parties. We'll create an avenue where we'll really go into the two policies. And then we will be able to advise emphatically which of these policies will help us when it comes to corruption fight. Because it's very, very important. We will not sit down and allow wrong decisions to be made. Because we realize that when you make the wrong decisions and the right people decide to keep quiet, the effect is not only channeled to those who made the wrong decisions, but the effect is like that all of us will have the effect, the heat of it. And that is very, very key and very, very important. The other thing that I want us to also look at, and I'm sure at this time, my producer, you can activate the phone lines, because I said this evening we want to hear our viewers. We want to hear them also say what they need to talk about or to say as far as we prepare for the elections. So the next one, or the next area, and for me it's quite interesting, has to do with what influences voters' choice, or what is going to influence voters' choice. What will influence voters' choice? Doc, before we go into that, there's this funny video. I call it funny because it's really funny, that I want viewers and I want all of us to watch, if we can play it.
If you are a Muslim, I'm a Muslim. You live in Dabo. You're a Dabo. And you take your thumbprint and you vote for NDC. It is a haram. My dear, if you are an imam and you pray, and you pray for John Dramani Mahama to become president, instead of the Mahmoud Bawumia, it's a haram. His Majesty, I can say it. I must say it. NDC only uses Muslims for votes. And only uses Maldives for votes.
Thank you so much. So let's just end it there. I'm sure if you're interested in getting the full video again. But what he was simply saying was that he was addressing a community, I think somewhere in the northern region, and was telling them, he mentioned two things categorically. If you are a Muslim and you decide to vote for John Mahama, or you vote against the MPP candidates, or if you're a Muslim and you go to the mosque or you go on your knee and you end up praying for John Mahama to win as against Bawumia, then you have committed haram. Haram is abomination. You've committed haram. I know I have a call on the line, but just a minute. Now you've committed haram. That's what it means. Now you see, the funny thing, Doc, about this is that, when you go to a place like Damango, it's a constituency, and currently the MP there is called Abu Jinapo. Abu Jinapo is a Christian on the ticket of MPP. The NDC candidate there is my own brother, Adams. Adam is a Muslim. Now, if you have a running mate who wants to be the vice president of Ghana, saying that if you vote for anyone who is a Christian, you have committed haram, forgetting that his candidate in the same northern zone, which is Damango, is a Christian. And so, we'll come back to this because it has to do with the things that the Afrobarometer report came up with. Candidates' honesty, the character of the candidate, campaign promises, and all that. But let's go to the phone lines. Good evening, caller.
Good evening.
Me pache to say. Udini baby free.
Well, maybe sorry, me can my title.
Okay, yeah, please go ahead.
Well, you be program it is very alarming. We share Afro barometer report, very, very, very damning and alarming.
Yeah.
Now the contrast here, may I have can say, we share before 2016. As a NPP Baba Pond, some of Mukafa NBC, a President Mahama. Now, be in some bar, they were coming to rule with some correctness in the But 8 years in the Nutu said they have even performed worse than all the allegations they made against NDC. Now, I am one to say, they call a 2024 elections, December elections, now a don't PhD MPP still. But what shall I need a hidden partisan tribal political sentiment? I mean, I had done it, Siano. America won't to hear a Donald Trump, but because they vote on issues in Cuba, who say Biden administration and performing to their expectations, they have gone for the same Trump.
Yeah,
and it's just these Americans and Europeans, they vote on issues, but yet they are hidden tribal agenda.
That's
right. They are something they coming from to
exactly.
They are getting to me. I mean, I say no, and then I say no.
It's true. Yeah, that's very true. But that's a
I'm not holding great for NDC person, but the question is, what they say the panasonic, you did to me to Obama. If you buy a Western, where's the crowd? Very in fact, Nana many pansa or Pompa, Nana many pansa with them. and the Gumbia, as on the four, Shikafoni business and quite proud to say, they gave him money to campaign before coming to power in 2018. But because of the tribal affiliation, they can't talk.
Exactly.
Come share info. National security. Council of State. I thought she done on the president.
Yeah.
In fact, hypocrisy.
Yeah, thank you so much. In Krovopi were line so Nyami Sharp. I mean, you have said it as a Doc. Before we pick the next caller, so the report says that the number one thing most Ghanaians are going to look out for to decide who to vote for is the candidate's honesty. In fact, 73% of Ghanaians are relying on the candidate's honesty. Then we have 70% relying on the character of the candidate. Then campaign promises, 32%. So you see, those doing digitalization, 24-hour and all those things, as far, just like Yao said, unlike other jurisdictions, people vote based on issues near the end. As far as this election 2024 is concerned, people are going to look at the honesty of the person. They are going to look at the character of the person. Now, if you have a vice presidential candidate, bringing in, instead of talking about promises, is talking about the fact that a Christian, you have committed haram, abomination. I mean, I don't even, I'm not getting the whole thing, but how do we, since when did that become an issue? But Doc, this is it. The point here is, or the question here is, how do you identify the honesty of a person or the character of a person?
Right, Emma, there's a very important issue and very interesting preferences that the citizens have actually indicated.
Right.
You know, first on the ethnicity and then the religious issues.
Yes. And that's the MPP running mate.
Yeah, I'm quite happy that citizens generally are not placing so much emphasis on a person's religious or ethnic kind of background.
Right.
And that is good for our politics. Where the survey shows that people place more premium on policies than ethnicity and religion, it means that it is good for us. But where it is a bit worrying is where people are looking at character and then honesty. It becomes a bit dicey and then murky. So it is up to now the two candidates now to prove in their campaigns to the citizens, in measuring character, in measuring honesty, what have they done before in the past to actually support their claims that if elected, citizens can rely on their past achievements, on their past performance now to trust them that they will be able to deliver at the end of the day. And so in measuring the issue of integrity, in looking at the issue of character, yes, it's very important. If the person is not known to be someone who abide by his or her words when it comes to the promises that the person gives, then of course the person then will lack the integrity and then the character really to be committed to whatever he or she says.
Very true.
So people will have to look at the past performance of the candidates in determining what constitutes the integrity and then the character of the two leading candidates at the end of the day. And of course, and if you were to look at the governance side, really, then you will say that in terms of which of the two candidates really performed very well in the governance side. That's 2012, 2013, 14. Then you will say that really, I mean, there is one candidate who performed better than the other.
And who is that
But
candidate?
at the same time, I mean, that's from the Afrobarometer report, where Mahama really, I mean, performed better on the governance side. The same time, if you look at the same Afrobarometer report, it tells you that for a candidate or a president like J. Kufuor, J. Kufuor performed very, very well.
Doc, just a second. There's a caller who has been waiting for long. Let's just... Caller, are you online? Okay, so we've lost the caller. Right. Sorry about that. We kept you too long. Sorry about that. Right.
So if you look at the same corruption issues, the Afrobarometer report will
Doc, sorry, there's another caller on the line. Caller, good evening.
Hello.
And welcome to Politics and Beyond. Ofrefi.
No, a grand year one.
Kabiem.
A grand year one.
Den here when wu. O say den here wa men wu.
A grand year one.
Okay, Mate. Udi ne the same.
The same.
Okay, mpacho boni to my.
In particular, I am person the can say, Napuanga Langa 24 in Anu, Onikasa. Campaign over in your 8 year. It is campaign elected by almost president never passed as I didn't couldn't. You cut our your own car. The first of your
Mate, thank you so much. But honestly, on this Napu thing, as we have statistically, Christians are in the majority. Why will we even go and invoke this kind of conversation? And I'm surprised that Christian Council is quiet on this. The Islamic Council is quiet on this. I'm really surprised that the religious bodies are quiet on this statement from this man. Anyway, Doc, please go ahead. Yes.
So I think we'll come to that.
Yes.
Still on the character and the integrity of the candidates. Within the same NPP, if you look at the Afrobarometer reports, you will see that in 2008, when Afrobarometer conducted the Round 4 survey, 19% of respondents considered the president to be corrupt.
Right.
And that was the time of J. Kufuor. Now, compared to the 2024 one, where 54% of the respondents consider the presidency to be corrupt. So it tells you that the character of the persons who occupied the presidency during J. Kufuor's time really perhaps, were considered to be less corrupt characters compared to the character of those who are occupying the presidency now. So in terms of character and then integrity, you see that even within the same party, you see a big difference. And so the personalities are very important. Their commitments really to fighting corruption is very important. I think the statement that you made in terms of statement like the one that Napo made.
Sorry, let's take this caller and then we'll come back. Good evening.
Hello. Good evening, boss.
Impacha to say. Udini baby Afrefi.
Oh, you're from Maui, but area me what you hear different you photo water.
Okay, mami fa Maui na. Maui Afrefi.
But I'm from Switzerland. I was Shama and Pontemo.
Okay, Pacho Koso.
Me Pacho, every for woman. You want me to be an Yafra. Me catch a gun of money. I say, you must have Mutu Mama DM. Any NDC parliamentary candidate be
Mate, thank you so much. Medase. Yes, please.
So I was making the point that in terms of the elections and what citizens are looking for, I will urge the presidential and vice presidential candidates to really focus more on the policies and in the issues that they think has defined their performance, and then what they will be capable of doing for citizens, rather than to go into the areas that really divide the country, those slippery grounds where ethnicity and religious cards are actually played. That is not that is a very slippery ground.
That's
right. But if you look at the Afrobarometer also survey, it tells you that many citizens or respondents now have more trust in religious institutions than they even do in our state institutions. What this says is that the Christian Council of Ghana and then the umbrella religious bodies should not just sit down. If now more citizens now trust them more than even the state institutions, it means that they have to be up when they hear certain kind of utterances that they think is likely to divide the country. Utterances that concern religious and an ethnic kind of issues that is not likely to really unite the country. We urge them. They have to be up and then do it. They just don't have to sit down and fold their arms.
That's right.
Because more citizens are now saying that they trust them more when it comes to intervening in our politics to ensure that we are more united even than our state institutions. So we urge them. They should be up. The Christian Council of Ghana, the office of the chief imam and others. They should really help us in prosecuting more sane politics.
Doc, let me add to this issue of candidates' honesty and candidates' character. I am not really surprised that this time those are the two most important areas that citizens are looking for. You know why? It is just because in the year 2016, to a very large extent, I personally believe that Ghanaians voted based on policies. and issues. And the reason why most Ghanaians, according to Electoral Commission, voted for Akufo-Addo and Bawumia, their excellencies, to lead us was largely because of the policies that they professed. Now, they realized that this past years, 2017 till now, almost everything that His Excellency Akufo-Addo and Bawumia promised, on which they voted them, they have done the opposite. So, for instance, the president or the vice president promised that he doesn't see why we should introduce anything called electronic levy. They come to office, they do that. The president says, I am here to protect the public purse. He comes to office, he does the opposite. The president tells us that if you want to make yourself rich, go to the private sector and not to my government. He comes to office and he does otherwise. The vice president says, I'm going to make sure that corruption is a thing of the past because I am someone that do not believe in corruption. He comes to the office and his office is engaged in corrupt practices. They come in and they say that as far as they are concerned, they are going to make sure that borrowing will be a thing of the past because yet is also a comedian. They come to office and it is the opposite. And so I think Ghanaians have come to the realization that it is not only what you say that they need to, stand on, but they believe that not only what you say, but the one saying it should also be looked at, so that they will not make the mistake of voting for a flip-flopper. And I seriously believe that's the reason why they are now looking for who among the leaders has exhibited and is still exhibiting some traits of honesty. Who among the leaders has exhibited and is still exhibiting some traits of good character. It is just because they have been seriously disappointed. And they believe that, well, we believed or we decided to follow this person's promises, not knowing their character and honesty was extremely questionable, and we didn't look at it that way. And I strongly believe that is the main reason why this time they've decided that, well, promises comes in, but that should be third. We want to make sure that the one we are going to vote for is someone that has some level of honesty and some level of character, and not this flip-flopper. Today, I will do this. Tomorrow, he comes and does another thing and says, give me power when I come, I'll revert to something else and all that. But, Doc, before I come back to you, there are a number of messages that have come through, and I want us to quickly go. This one says, Ghana need absolute change because NPP can't help us all. This is from Oreku in Nkoko. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. Now we the youth are open-minded this time around. We won't allow the NPP to deceive us again. Bawumia and the NPP have nothing new to offer Ghanaians. Let's vote John Dramani Mahama come 7 December 2024. I am, is it Mujid from Kintampo North constituency. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. Please let my fellow Ghanaians know the effect of the digitalization, because the woman selling lights in your area will lose her job. Will lose her job because we will all buy it online. The hard man helping us to get our passport so he can also get something small home will also lose his job. You didn't add your name. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. Our biggest problem is that governments refuse to accept blame, but they are quick to blame the Mahama government of our woes after 8 years in government. And this is Moses from Nkwanta in Oti region. Good evening, Chief Crusader. Politics has been monetized in African countries that people vote based on what they will get personally, not what will benefit the whole nation. May the Lord help us in Ghana and Africa. Thanks, Oliver from Adaklu. Well, Oliver, thank you so much for doing the watching. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. In fact, things are going astray under this incompetent Nana-Addo and Bawumia government. I definitely know that President Mahama is taking the seat and nothing can stop that. Keep up the good work you and your crew members are doing. We are behind you. This is God bless Aka from Nzema Elembele constituency. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. We thank God that Honorable Joanna... Okay, not so clear. Okay, 2016, yes, we can't compare prices to today, 2024. That's vividly true. But I want to find out if JM should win, can his administration reduce the prices of commodities, etc., etc.? To us, it was in 2016. Okay, there are a number of messages, so sorry. In which country are we living in? The court is becoming the topmost institution that the average Ghanaian is losing trust and hope in. I went to court and was charged about 700 cedis without a receipt. The question is, where did the money go? Okay, you didn't add your name and we can't even authenticate what you're saying. If we are buying milk at 1 cedi 80 pesos in 2016, now we are buying milk at 8 cedis in 2024. My question is, what guarantee do we have if NDC should come to power? Prices of foodstuffs and will reduce or maintain till 2028. Okay, not so clear. Maybe I'll take this very last one. It says, good evening, please. I'm Omar Hine watching you live from Brengo near Mampong Ashanti. Please, can you send me all the flyers, all the files, or the documents you are showing on the TV for me, because it will help me a lot. Thank you. All right, thank you so much, even though I said the last one. Hello, Mr. Wilson. Baumia should be defeated massively to want politicians to take us seriously. God will not forgive us if we glorify this evil against us by retaining this MPP. A good parent does not spare the rod. MPP supporters, are you sincerely proud of this government? Any voter who votes for Baumia has no right to cry about the development of this nation. This is Kilpo Tuna from Savannah region. Doc, these are some of the messages. There are a number of them, but time will not allow us. But Doc, we've talked about this. We've talked about the honesty. We've talked about the character. We've talked about the promises. We've talked about the corruption. We've talked about the institutions. Yeah. As we move into the 2024 elections, with all this glaring, how can we secure our democracy?
Emma, if you look at all the things that people are saying and the things that we have discussed so far, it boils down to about two main things.
Right.
To secure democracy, you need good economic performance.
Right.
And at the end of the day, if you cannot create that good economic performance, it doesn't matter how many times you go to the ballot box to vote, you are going to crash. And once again, among the countries that Afrobarometer has surveyed, Ghana has conducted more elections than any of them. We've conducted more peaceful elections than any of them. And yet, if you look at Ghana's performance, it's one of the 3 countries that is not currently under military rule, but that has a high percentage of citizens now clamoring for military rule, which is not very good.
That's right.
And so, to secure our democracy, they have to look at the kind of candidates who will be able to produce that kind of economic conditions that can help citizens really to live well economically and in secure democracy. The second area is governance, the trust in our public institutions. Once again, you have to look at the records. In terms of character, in terms of honesty, well, no human being is an angel, but their track record, their performance speaks a lot about their character or their commitment to whatever promises that they make. So if you look at the governance performance too, then they have to look at it and ask themselves, which among them really is capable, has proven really to build more effective and entrusted governance institutions for this country. So if they make the mistake of just, flowing on the tangent of ethnicity, religion, and those other things that really have tended to divide countries and then led countries into big civil war, Rwanda, Kenya, Sierra Leone, and others, we will not be able to sustain the democracy. So they should focus on the economic issues, and then they should focus on the governance issues. We also urge the candidates, their track record in these critical areas, economic performance and then governance performance, should be key in convincing voters about their ability to do it, looking at their track record. Otherwise, we will not be able to secure our democracy. And looking at the fact that now more citizens now trust the military, even our state institutions.
And it's alarming.
It's alarming. We urge that, just as many statesmen and women have said, the military should continue to play that kind of neutral role, Because Ghana has proven that during the Nkrumah days, and immediately after the Nkrumah days, we've done it before,
right.
and we were richer. We will be able to build and then build a better Ghana if we make the right choices at the end of the day. But since many are also trusting the religious institutions to secure the democracy, I urge religious leaders,
right.
the Christian Council, the office of the chief imam, and other umbrella religious leaders, not only just to pray for the safety and stability of this country, but also to make their voices heard, because the citizens trust them even more than they trust the state institutions. So please, religious leaders and religious bodies, please make your voices heard. As much as possible, try to bring the two major parties together and then the other parties together to sign some peace accord, to be committed to what can guarantee a more peaceful and incredible elections. If we joke and we sit on our seats and we say that, oh, Ghana yasum the data from Afrobarometer, which predicted doom or predicted that some countries will not be able to withhold and sustain their democracies, it came to pass. And Ghana, from the current data, if you look at the countries where citizens are saying that they've lost a great deal of trust in democracy and they want military rule, if you take out those that are already currently under military rule, Ghana places third. If you look at the Afrobarometer report that has come in, so we shouldn't joke and just sit and say, oh, Ghana, you have some GMI. We are not better off than Kenya. We are not better off than Ivory Coast. We are not better off than Mali and Burkina Faso. So we urge those religious institutions to intervene at the end of the day in creating that peaceful condition.
Thank you so much, Doc. Thank you so much. A number of messages have come, and glancing through, there are lots of them that are also showing appreciation for your coming and your submission. Doc, I want to add my voice and say thank you so much for coming. It's always a pleasure to have you. It's always a pleasure. Viewers, so this is where time will allow us. This coming Wednesday, we are going to repeat the same episode on this same platform, TV XYZ, at exactly 11 a.m. Make time and watch it again. Call your friends who couldn't watch it, your family members who couldn't watch. Let them watch it. And as I keep telling you, governance is a serious business. God willing, next week, Monday, this same time, we will come back and then we'll have another exciting episode. But I want to end it with a message that came from one man. And it says that the upcoming election has nothing to do with lovers of political parties, but rather lovers of Ghana. And this is Edward Henry Odum from Aguna Swedro. And that is what I want you to reflect on. Lovers of Ghana and not lovers of political party. I am still your host, Emmanuel Wilson Jr. And before I sign out, I want to say a special good evening to Madam Joyce Amma Thompson, one of our ardent viewers. You know, she has always been watching us, and she is the mother of Ohima Oyeje, who is a colleague host at one of the sister stations. I'm sure all of us know her name. So, Madam Joyce Amma Thompson, we love you so much and thank you so much. So we meet again next week. I'm still your host, Emmanuel Wilson Jr., the Chief Crusader. And what I can say for now is good night.